Welcome, I'm George Mavridis. I am the tech journalist and social media manager for 4i Magazine, and October is declared as Security Awareness Month, and 4i Magazine has prepared a set of free webinars to discuss cybersecurity issues. This is why we are here today with Don Pezet and Kristi Shehu to discuss another very interesting topic: how to build your dream team of security professional. So welcome, Don, and welcome, Kristi. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Very excited.
So let me just introduce you to our audience, and then we can start our discussion. So we have with us Don Pezet. Don has been working in the IT industry for more than 20 years and holds dozens of IT certification. He has been an IT educator for more than 12 years and brings his talents to the video on demand world to reach a massive number of students when and where it is convenient for them. Don teaches a variety of courses on network and system administration, but he readily admits that his favorite topics is Linux. His goal is to provide engaging and effective training that he wishes he would have had when he got his start in IT. In his spare time, Don is the host of the weekly IT podcast, Tecnando, with Don Pezet, and he holds a BA from Excelsior College in Liberal Students Studies with a focus in computer information sciences and political science. And he lives in North Central Florida with his family, and we are really glad to have him today with us. So welcome, Don.
Thanks again for having me. I'm excited to jump in and talk about how people can, find out about careers in IT. I work with a lot of people that are moving into the environment, so it'll be a fun talk.
We are really looking forward for your insights. And we have with us Kristi Shehu as well. Kristi is a cybersecurity engineer profiled in web application security, currently based in Albania, working for one of the largest companies handling projects for national government, financial industry, and so on. She has transitioned from her early career in digital marketing and content creation to working as a cybersecurity engineer and also as a cyber journalist for 4i Mag. Now she has dedicated her time and career towards application security engineer and creating content to raise awareness for different cyber risks. So welcome, Kristi.
Thank you again, George, for having me, for inviting me, and I'm excited. Let's get right into it.
So as I said earlier, we're about to discuss how to build your dream team of security professionals. And when we talk about a dream team of security professional, I would like to see Don's and Kristi's overview of what that could look like for different organizations. Talk us through what a security team looks like at different kinds of organizations. Maybe Don, you want to start with this?
Sure. The big factor that's going to impact somebody's vision of a dream team is going to be the sensitivity of the data they hold. That there are some organizations where the data they hold is just not terribly sensitive, in which case their vision of a dream team for cybersecurity would actually be outsourced, an MSSP. They don't have to deal with it. It's just handled externally. But let's say you're a hospital and now you're handling medical records and extremely sensitive information. Now your dream team is made up of blue teamers and red teamers. You've got people that are actively testing your defenses. You've got people who are doing technical documentation. There's project managers. I mean, it's a very robust cybersecurity organization. So really the sensitivity of your data is going to determine how big that team needs to be and what it's going to be made up of.
Well, Kristi, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more, actually, and that's exactly true. But I want to also add something more to it. If I can say from my point of view or perspective, coming from Balkans region, I'm currently located in Albania, and we're working as a cybersecurity engineer. And the thing is, what am I mostly seeing in different organizations and companies? It's a very not having like a properly structured kind of unit for security. For example, there are organizations and that have implemented this type of units before, but the thing is, the whole concept is not quite become as a mindset for different companies and organizations that they need to have security implemented. We can see different organizations and companies here that do not have security at all implemented. They do not even have it as a outsource service, for example, or a company outsourcing working for them, or even as a unit in itself. So I think we should just, for example, try to raise awareness towards this type of units and the schemes of organization hierarchy and what are they and why they are very important to have. So not just because of the sensitivity of the data, but of the whole business process in itself and the workflow in order to keep it much more safer.
So, Kristi, what are the different types of cybersecurity roles that are typically needed to round out a security team? And especially if we're talking about small businesses, how will a company even know what they need?
Oh, this is such a very broad topic, actually. I can sit down laughing because it's a very broad topic and there are quite a lot of roles when we're talking about cybersecurity. We cannot just say cybersecurity engineer. We have like different specifications for each and every single role. We have web application. It depends on the business, honestly. It depends on the business, on the data that they are transmitting, they're providing the service and everything. So after you conduct the analysis of the business process and the whole logic behind the business and what they are offering, then you can create the dream team, if we can say it. It's the next step of it. But the roles are enormous. For example, it depends on the organization. If you have like a software company, for example, coming from my point of view, it's necessary to have information security, data protection. It's necessary to have a web application penetration tester. And not only infrastructure security, network security, there are so many more positions that there are nowadays, and they are creating even more new positions as we are speaking right now because technology is evolving. And at the same time, cybersecurity is evolving also. So the need to have these new roles and specific roles is increasing also. So if a person says that I want to work into cybersecurity, it has this whole new spectrum and very broad forms or roles where they can just lead into it and then gather as much information they can and grow professionally into different roles. So I don't know if we can put all of these roles together tonight. It's a very broad topic, and if we start talking today, we'll end till tomorrow talking about this. But the thing is, all of this information that we are trying to spread and everything right now, it's right there online. If a person wants to just jump into this and just to get ahead and start it, they can just do it by a simple Google search and just understand what kind of wants and desires they want or requires they want to fulfill in order to find a specific orientation for it.
So, Don, what's your perspective?
Well, for small businesses, you'll usually see their cybersecurity team grow just organically from within. It'll typically start with whoever it is that's responsible for rolling out their patches, who's managing their Windows update server, that kind of thing, making sure updates are applied, handling operating system upgrades, and that'll start to evolve into their cybersecurity program. You also see it on the networking side. Whoever manages the firewalls slowly evolves to becoming the cybersecurity department over time. But when you start getting into medium and large organizations, you usually see it originate from somewhere else, and that's compliance. That if you handle credit card payments, you need to be PCI DSS compliant. And so somebody in compliance is going to draw a line in the sand and say, here's the bare minimum we need to be doing. And that bare minimum is the origin of your cybersecurity team. PCI DSS is probably I would say is probably the number one example where a company gets pushed into maintaining their own cybersecurity, or they just leverage third parties, MSSPs, like I mentioned earlier. But there's other certifications out there that companies want to achieve. ISO 27001, do a SOC 2 attestation, things like that will usher a company into doing it. And a lot of times they'll bring in consultants, and the consultants will assist in defining, here's the roles you actively need. At a minimum, you need one person who is just all throughout the year making sure that you maintain your security posture. So it's all well and good to have somebody come in today and configure your firewalls nice and secure and tell people to use strong passwords. But what about next month and the month after? Like somebody's got to maintain an education program within your organization to teach people to act securely, because every single employee in the organization is actually part of your cybersecurity team, and they need to think that way. So there's a lot of different roles that come out of that. And it might be people who are actually working on the firewalls, or it might be trainers that are teaching the end user security awareness program. It could be auditors, project managers. All of these are different roles that a small company won't need day one, right? It starts with that single person, maybe compliance, maybe network engineer, and then it starts to grow from there.
So, Don, let's talk about now the candidates for those roles. What do you think are the ideal skills that are most valuable to fill these roles?
You know, the most valuable skill, in my opinion, is the hardest one to describe. It's the ability for somebody to learn, right? Learning is a skill. And some people are really good at it, right? Some people can just skim through a book and now they've got a new skill, and it frustrates the rest of us. They can't do that. Other people are just really motivated and focused and put in the work, the blood, sweat, and tears to learn something and gain that skill. That ability right there is extra important in cybersecurity, because you know, in other industries, like let's say database administration, databases haven't changed all that much in the last 20 years. So your skills hang around a good bit. But in cybersecurity, you've got 0 days that are out there. Like your skills can last 0 days. And so you have to stay on top of it. You have to always be learning, and you might be at the top of your game today, but if you stop paying attention to what's going on out there in the real world, you'll be obsolete pretty quick. So that's what I always look for in the people that I work with. Is I don't expect a perfect skill set. I don't expect them to have every single certification or years and years of experience. But if they can show that they can quickly learn and adapt, that is critical in cybersecurity staff.
So, Kristi, what do you think about the
Actually,
skills?
that's so true, and I couldn't agree more, because as Don said, it's only about the willingness to learn and getting the logic behind it. If we start setting like the rules, or just listing everything, every skill, technical skill that there is, we can continue listing them, and will be a very enormous list at the end of the day. And the perfect candidate that has all the certifications and the whole technical skills, there isn't one. We have to be honest about that. There isn't such thing as the perfect candidate or the perfect security engineers that knows everything, because as Don said, you are learning continuously every single day. And we are learning new stuff every single day with technology evolving as we are speaking right now. But at the same time, it's about getting the logic behind it. It's not about learning the newest penetration testing tool. It's not learning the newest methodology, but understanding the logic behind it, how you are doing it, why we are doing this kind of security assessment. What am I expecting? If we see it from a penetration tester point of view, I could point it in this way: getting the logic behind every single action that you are doing. If you are doing a specific action or simulation of an attack, let's say, for example, testing, security testing, you have to know why you are doing this, what kind of impact it's supposed to do, and the response that you're getting back, how it should be. And if you're faced like an anomaly or something, to understand it. That's the whole point of it, to get the logic behind it, because tools can be easily learned if you put the willingness and the time and effort into learning everything. But at the end of the day, it's about grasping the whole logic, because if you manage to grasp the logic, then everything else seems very easy to you. That's my personal opinion about that.
Thank you, Kristi. Don, what role do certifications play here as far as actually being able to do a job? Are certification really a tell that someone is going to be qualified? What do you think?
So, you know, nothing is a guarantee. When you hire on a new employee, there's always a risk there that they've presented themselves in a way that's not actually reflective of their skill. When you look at experience on a resume, that can be a mixed bag sometimes. Here in the United States is a particular problem, because if we call for like employment verification and call a past employer, all they can really say is, yes, they worked here, and either yes or no, they're eligible to be rehired, right? And that's it. So we really don't get a vision of their skills. So when we hire somebody, what certifications do is they help us to gauge whether or not they'll be ready to do practical work on day one. Sometimes we hire a team member and it takes 1 month, 2 months. With developers, it can be even longer, like 3 to 6 months before they're a fully functioning member of the team. But in the world of cybersecurity, if they've got certifications, that helps to show that at least they've got a particular skill set that can be applied on day one. So let's say, for example, that my company has grown to a point where we know we need a SIEM in place. We need centralized logging, and we need somebody who's able to get in and manage and monitor that. All right, well, I could put that in the job requirements. I need somebody who knows how to work with SIEMs. If I find somebody who, maybe I'm going to be implementing Splunk, but they've got experience with Logarithm or Sumo Logic or somebody like that. Well, will their skills pivot over to a different product? I don't know. It might take them a little while to ramp up. I know I went through this years ago where I had worked with Cisco firewalls a lot and then had to jump over to Juniper firewalls. It's the same concepts, but you have to learn new commands. It takes a while to ramp up. If I can find somebody who's certified in the platform that I use, that tells me, all right, they've already got training or real world experience or something that allowed them to pass that test. They should be able to work and be functional on that hardware right away. So that's really what certifications are designed to do, is validate that you have skills and tie them to real world practical applications.
So
Yeah,
Kristi, I saw that you agree. Am I right?
actually, it's like a type of proof of concept, the certification, but it also depends on the role that you're hiring, the company's needs that you're hiring. Because, for example, if a company needs is a junior security engineer, web application security engineer, but at junior level, then perhaps the certification is not that necessary. So it always depends on the requirements of the companies that is trying to hire right now. But as Don said, yes, that is true, because the certification is the proof of concept of your own knowledge and how you are able to transmit that and to use them in order to better improve the whole efficiency of the business and the workflow. But at the same time, it's, as I said, again, it depends on the requirement of the business. Because if we have like a quick requirement for a junior penetration tester or engineer, security engineer, specific security engineer, that we want to adapt and then to train along the time, we have the time needed to train that, then perhaps the certifications are not that necessary quite right away. It's about the willingness to learn, the ability to quickly grasp things, because as we mentioned before, cybersecurity is rapidly evolving, so you need to grasp things quickly, to retrieve data information very quickly, and to learn everything very quickly. And then the willingness to just grow more professionally and to be able to get more certifications at a later time. So at the end of the day, it depends. It's not like we are saying it should be so and it's very objective. This is a very subject matter, and everything can shift. For example, the company needs that, but at the same time, the company may need a security engineer with a senior level kind of degree. Of course, they're going to get the person who has more certifications, and not only certifications that they, because I'm saying this as I've seen certain things happening in LinkedIn, for example. They showcase their certificate that they have taken this certain certificate, but in reality, it's just like a fake profile that they have created, and it's not that it's not validated, it's not eligible, and that person has not in real life taken that certification. So we should consider this other stuff too when we are seeing a candidate coming to our team, towards our team.
Mm-hmm. So getting back to hiring, based on your experience, Don, what are hiring managers for security roles getting wrong or right in today's job market? Because we hear about a skill shortage in security, but is that really the case in your opinion? What do you think?
So I have I guess it's maybe a bit of a hot take on this one, because I don't feel like there actually is a shortage that's out there. What I feel like is that on the hiring side, they're going into it with the wrong expectations. And so you'll see a lot of jobs that are posted where the requirements list is ridiculous. They want a ton of different products that and degrees and other things. but then their pay is very, very low for what they're hoping to get. And when those two things are offset like that, requirements are high and pay is low, yeah, there's a shortage. There's very few people that are going to fit exactly what you want. And the requirements, especially when it comes to like a college degree or particular certifications, each requirement they add is shrinking the pool of available people that can go in and work. And so that to me is really what drives the shortages out there. If people would be a little more realistic, if they would pay what the position is worth, that would solve a lot of problems. And if they would be, they have to be ready to be agile with what requirements they have, because cybersecurity changes every day. Your requirements tend to change, and HR departments are a little slow to do that. Now we can stack on one more challenge, which is there is a global workforce out there. There are cybersecurity professionals all over the world, but because of changing privacy laws and political factors that are in place, there is a lot of talent that basically gets walled off that we can't use. And we see that right now, like as a US company, if we start leveraging cybersecurity professionals in the Russian Federation, that's a problem. And so we lose all our government contracts. And so as a company, immediately we lose that entire market of talented people. And it's unfortunate, but that's how things are. And that really is what I think people are getting wrong right now, is that we've got to pay what the people are worth. We've got to have realistic expectations of what experience they're going to have, and then we can be set up for success.
What do you think, Kristi, based on your experience, and maybe you can give us the European perspective, the European market perspective?
Yes, actually, it's exactly like that meme that we have seen circling around, the funny meme, where the hiring managers require for an entry position. Meanwhile, the requirements for that position is extremely long. The list goes on, and they require, for example, a 5 years plus experienced security engineer. That's insane. We have to be honest about that. But at the same time, I think it depends on a global market. Of course, I think that there is not a shortage, but if we see it in a more specific point of view, for example, in Albania, since I'm speaking from my point of view, we can see a shortage of people here, unfortunately, since there is a lack of information about it. And people don't tend to they don't have the specific forum, let's say, or specific place to get the information. They don't know where to get this information of whether they should go inside the cybersecurity spectrum and grow professionally there. They're also very specific to different IT roles, and they completely forget about cybersecurity. Meanwhile, cybersecurity is not only just a profession, but it should be like a mindset for people. And that's why the situation, in my point of view, is a little bit more different than Don's, because I can see that there is a shortage of people right here. In a global market, no, it's not. Of course, it's not. And we see talents from everywhere arising. But in a very local market, let's say for people, there we can see a clear shortage of persons. And that is why the need to outsource the service is quite large at these places, or to offer the services, the people that are, for example, in Albania, to offer the services to an outsourced place. So it's the demanding and the requesting of the whole country in itself, it's lacking in the cybersecurity specter.
So, Kristi, what skills do you think those looking to begin their career in the IT or cybersecurity industry need to have?
To begin, well, it's very specific, because as we're saying right now, it depends on the role that you want to follow, what kind of direction you want to follow, the specific direction. And honestly speaking, it's about just starting, just learning the few basics, the concepts, the basic concepts, and the ability to, as we mentioned it already till now, to quickly grasp things. But if we start by just getting information about the basic concepts, and then later on just focusing on a specific concept and finding ourselves towards that direction, learning even more, continuously growing with that profession, and continuously at the other hand updating with the latest trends, etc., then this will keep us like a head start where we can just keep running towards the end goal, which is getting the profession that we want. So it's a never-ending cycle, honestly. Even us that we are working right now in the cybersecurity spectrum, we are learning every day. So it's a never-ending cycle of the learning process. So you just have to start at the beginning, just by starting getting information, knowledge through every single forum, because everything is online now. You can find every single thing online just by a Google search away. You have to just type the latest security trends, and then you can continue reading about it. And that's the first trigger that you have to do in order to just jump in, and then that's it. The willingness to learn and get ahead of it.
What do you think, Don?
Well, I completely agree with everything Kristi just said. So, that's absolutely where I would say go first. But adding on to it, I mentioned earlier, and Kristi mentioned how cybersecurity tools change so fast. You don't want to just focus in on individual tools that might be gone a month or a year from now. But there are a couple of skills that aren't going anywhere, that will always be there, that if you're looking to get started in cybersecurity, you should make sure you get a chance to wrap your head around. And the first one is not fun. It's not sexy and exciting. It's documentation. If you are a cybersecurity professional, you will likely spend a good half of your career doing documentation. And that's if you're on the defense, offense, if you're a contractor or full-time, documentation is a huge part of cybersecurity. So having decent grammar, being able to communicate ideas, being able to create diagrams, that's a huge part of it. Even if you have a really cool, like I'm a hacker pen tester type job, pen testers still have to report all their findings and have to generate it in a way that's good for the customer. So that's one. And then the second thing I would add is automation. And I'm going to stay vague on this one because it doesn't really matter how you automate. It's just that you are able to automate, because the other half of your cybersecurity career will be spent generally doing the same tasks over and over and over again. And the more of that you can automate, the more time you'll have to spend on the more exciting things where you're really going in and finding something different. You can't automate finding a 0 day, for example. That's something new and unpredictable. But if you're having to monitor transaction logs or SIEM data or whatever, and looking for particular characteristics, automating an alert and a response, that is a huge part of making you have a really good security posture that is defensible and repeatable. So those are the two things I would add: just documentation and automation.
I think I can add one more though.
Oh, okay,
I think I can add, in the terms of soft skills, also the approach of one person, the proactive approach. I totally agree with what Don said, but I was also going to add the proactive approach, because if we're talking about security, we shouldn't be reactive. We shouldn't be the person who just leaves it to happen and then react to it. We have to have like this set of skill, which is a soft skill, actually, the proactive approach towards things, in order to proactively think of what might happen, in order to find solutions and to mitigate them, and to do the recommendations and everything that comes behind it.
So do you think that organizations need to improve or even expand their willingness to train employees rather than seek out the perfect fit who checks all boxes? What do you think?
Kristi, you want to jump in first?
No, please go ahead. I'm very curious.
So, this is an interesting one. And I would say it depends on where the company is at, like how mature their cybersecurity team is, right? If you're just getting started and building a department, you can actually benefit a lot by hiring somebody from outside who's already got experience. They can bring that in and help you craft a successful cybersecurity program. So there's some benefits there. If you've already got a cybersecurity team put together and it's already mature, you can take the chance to bring in people that are less skilled and train them up and help them evolve and grow into that position. And there's a number of training opportunities that are out there. There's organizations like mine, and there's probably 100 others easily that are out there, all helping people to get those skills. But it takes time. And if you're in a hurry, like if you just had a nightmare audit and you've got 90 days to remediate some findings from that audit, you may not have time to train your team. But once you hire somebody, like say you hire an expert from outside and you bring them in, they've got top skills that day. But over time, they still need training. They still need to continue to grow. You don't want them to stagnate. And so training is always going to be an aspect. It just may not always be right depending on the needs of the organization at that moment. This is unfortunately an area where when a company starts to have like a financial downturn, and they look for ways to save money, cutting their training program is usually one of the first things they go after. And I saw a funny bumper sticker a few years ago, and it said, if you think education is expensive, you should try ignorance. And that's really true in the world of cybersecurity. Like if you're not giving your team a chance to grow and learn, they're going to defend you from the threats from 2 years ago and not the threats from today. And it's changing so fast. I mean, it's like a battlefield out there. You've got to try and stay up with the latest and greatest. So training is really indispensable.
Kristi, what do you think?
Actually, that is true, but I can put perhaps my personal experience in that. For example, I was part of the company where I'm currently working in, but at a completely different sector. I was into digital marketing, and I had like a complete career shift and went into cybersecurity through trainings. Actually, it lasted quite a long time through trainings, and I finished the master's degrees. Meanwhile, I was working as a digital marketeer in information security, and then I jumped into the security profilization, let's say, profession. And I totally agree with what Don says when he says that it depends on the requirement of the company and how urgently they need it. Because of course, if you're going to need a security engineer right now, you have to hire a security engineer who is capable of doing the work right now at this specific moment. But if the company has the possibility of taking people inside their company and growing them professionally, or just learning them new things about this specific topic, then that is great. And I think companies, organizations should implement this kind of method, the training method, inside their own departments or inside their own companies and staff, because there might be some hidden talent in there, and you don't know if they want to pursue into that career or if they don't want to pursue into that career. So it's all about training and asking your employees, and then continuing with the whole process of hiring outsource. It all depends on the requirement, though. That is true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I just want to ask the audience if they want anything to discuss or to comment, just feel free to use the chat now so that we have the time to discuss it later on. And just to summarize our discussion here, I want you to actually tell me, what do you believe, what is your biggest advice to hiring managers and job seekers heading into the end of 2023, and maybe you just want to summarize the whole discussion here and give us the main ideas of your perspective. So Don, you can start.
Sure. So if you are just getting started with building out a cybersecurity program, don't try and guess your way through it. Don't try and just take a chance and hire one person and see how it goes. Instead, consider engaging with an MSSP, so a managed security services provider. You can even get them to where they just come in and give you advice based on your organization and your specific needs. It can help you set up that security program. By doing that, you'll avoid making mistakes early on that turn into big problems down the road. You can get off on the right foot and get going. Second would be to look at your existing employees and find who's already performing security type roles and formalize that. That if you've already got people that have that task kind of assigned to them as one part of their career, formalize it, set up a change control board or whatever piece it is that you want to control what's going on in your organization, and have them be a part of it. Those will be your initial information security officers, your ISOs, and then you start to grow from there. Not everybody needs a full-time CISO on staff and all of that. If you're a large organization, you may, but by engaging with an outside contractor, somebody like an MSSP, they'll help you to make sure that you've built up, or that you have an expectation of what your organization should look like at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Kristi, what is your advice?
Actually, everything what Don said, plus I would add also this other part, to hiring managers to specifically divide and specify the requirements that they have for security engineers that they want to hire. because we see that they have like a complete, the roles that they specify, the job descriptions and the roles and the requirements and everything, they're all over the place. They just need to find the requirements of their business, what they really want to hire, and then create a proper job description and then go after the right candidates.
Okay, thank you both for today's discussions. I see that we don't have any question from the audience, but as I said in the beginning, we have recorded this conversation and we are going to publish it online. So if anyone has anything to comment, to ask, I don't know if anyone has any suggestion about a follow-up discussion, and feel free to text us, email us, use any medium that you prefer. I would like to thank you all for joining our conversation. Thank you, Don and Kristi, for your precious time. It was a pleasure to have you here and discuss this really great topic with you.
Thank you so much. It was lovely. Thank you also, Don, for the nice conversation.
Yeah, thank you both. I enjoyed talking about it. It's a really neat and exciting time for people to be in IT. Cybersecurity is a great career field to be in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Thank you all. Have a nice night, day, I don't know, wherever you are, but take care. Thank you.